Hey everyone.
Hello.
Hello there. We are clearly waiting for committee members and a few others to jump on.
Absolutely. Also, I believe Rachel's name is still in, but I will be presenting.
Cool. Will, what's your last name?
Godofsky, Godovskiy.
Thanks.
Gotcha.
Hello.
Hi, Nina.
And Lucy here is my colleague. She's our college aide.
What happened?
Everything okay, Nina?
Yeah, no, you know what? Apparently, Microsoft had a major issue. And as a result, a lot of people like myself who are running Windows 11 had all kinds of issues. And it's now I've got to get everything reorganized.
Yeah. Well, we'll get this meeting started in just a couple of minutes. I'm checking in on a couple people. But Nina, yeah, I worked from home because my desktop in the office won't do the platform that my district needs is supposed to be on, but then this computer wouldn't allow me to stream. So there's
I
just
couldn't I couldn't write my papers. I had no ability to write unless I used the touch screen on the on the screen itself, which is
Yeah.
not a very good way to
No, I
write a
feel ya.
paper like that. Was like, oh no.
Hang in there. Nina, we do have Musa and Benjamin, the
Yes.
co-chairs of the committee, are both on, so I will leave it to them to begin now or a minute from now, whenever they are ready, set, go. I'm going to mute.
I'm ready, set, go. Sean, just let me know when we're ready to start, and I'm happy to do that.
Totally ready? Go for it.
Awesome. So good afternoon. We're going to start the Transportation Committee hearing today on November 6th. I'm a co-chair of the committee along with Musa Soon, who's also on the call right now. We're going to hear a few presentations today. The first one is going to be by Will Godofsky. Before you start, I just want to remind everybody to be respectful, hear him out, and then once he's finished with his presentations, we can hear questions from people that are on this meeting. We'll go first with board members and then followed up with members of the public. Will?
Awesome. Thanks so much for that, Benjamin, and Sean. I'm here representing DOT Concessions and Franchises, and I will be presenting on a automatic public toilet APT location in the district. Can everyone see this okay?
Can.
Gotcha. So just as a heads up, I am steering and I can't see the participants right now, but just please, Benjamin did say to try to keep questions till the end, but if you do have any, feel free to just speak up. So a little bit about the APT. It is a part of the Coordinated Street Furniture franchise. So that's with JC Deco, an advertising company. The unit is maintained and opened once at 8 a.m. in the morning and then closed up by JC Deco Techs at 8 p.m. at night. It is a self-cleaning unit. You get 15 minutes per use in there. It is a fully accessible unit. These new units are free of charge and they have a bottle filler on the side, which both of those things we're very excited about. And there are improvements to this new model, mostly with connectivity. So on their end, JC Deco is better able to address issues as they happen. This is the dimensions of the APT and kind of just renders of how it looks. You can see the bottle filler on the side there. And here are our siting criteria that we look for, and that's part of the challenges of installing APTs. But we look for 8 feet of clear path in the front, 3 feet in the back, 5 feet of clearance on all the sides, and then also 5 to 6 feet of clearance underground for the utilities that it uses. And this new unit also has better pumps so we can install in flood zones. And then the reason we're meeting with you today is community boards are part of the approval process, and we hope to get a letter of support. Prior to this meeting, we had some discussions with Parks and the Prospect Park Alliance, and those went positively. And then, sorry about that. The other levels of approval will be the council member, speaker of the council, mayor, and PDC. So this location here at Park Circle that we will be presenting on, we hope to capture park goers, cyclists in the area, residents, all of you, and really just anyone looking to use a bathroom. To go back to the hours of operation from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. That is longer hours than a lot of the park's bathrooms in the area. So this bathroom fits kind of a different need, and we're excited for that. Here's a further overview of the location. And here's an aerial view. So on the parade grounds side of Prospect Park in Park Circle. And here is another view. And that tape measure is the dimensions of the APT. So that's about how it would look. Here's a render. And here is a site plan developed by JC Deco. And now if anyone has any questions.
Will, thank you very much for the presentation. Going to see if we can.
And please let me know if you'd like me to go back to any of the slides or just elaborate on anything.
Absolutely, thank you. So I'm trying to figure out how I can scroll through this to see if there's anybody else that's raising their hand.
I've got you. Elizabeth Denise raised their hand and Martin
Okay.
Bergstrom raised second.
All right, so I'll ask a question first, and then we'll go to Liz, and then Ms. Bergstrom. So just one quick question, Will. When you say that it's free, I applaud the goal for that, but is there a concern by the DOT that free means that it'll be abused by, let's say, homeless people or other individuals that might take advantage of it?
No, we do get asked similar questions all the time, but the unit was previously 25 cents. That had its own challenges. Almost no one walks around with a quarter. We have seen an increase in use since the APTs have been switching over to free. Not all of them have been switched yet. And I forgot to mention, but there are actually 7 already installed. The closest one to the district would probably be the Grand Army Plaza location. So if anyone does want to go check it out. There's also one at Valentino Pier in Red Hook, but Grand Army Plaza might be closer. Back to your question though, the unit is, you get 15 minutes in there, after which the door opens automatically. So there are no issues of anyone, you know, living in there or like trying to board themselves in. It's just impossible.
All right, thank you. Liz, you're up, and then Mark.
Hi, thank you so much for this presentation. I'm really glad to, see attention on the issue of having more publicly accessible toilets, and glad we're going to get one in this area. A question I did have was, how are the hours set for this? Because I do know that I've often, as someone who tends to go through that area both before and after those hours, like there is definitely more opportunity where people maybe need a bathroom, earlier or later, and there's just many fewer places that have bathrooms available at those times. So I was just wondering if there's more insight onto that.
Yeah, that schedule was set forth in the contract and in the authorizing resolution, both of which had to go through council and many negotiations. This also predates my time, but I can say to your point of increased hours, that is something we can negotiate with JC Deco if need be, but per the contract, they service them 8 a.m. and then 8 p.m.
Martin?
Oh, that was actually going to be my question as well, from Liz. So thank you. I guess it's just additional color. I live pretty close to this and walk my dog over at that section of the park pretty regularly. And unfortunately, the little peninsula there by the lake has become kind of a de facto public restroom in a way that is gross. And I'd much rather have the public have access to proper facilities. So preferably at late hours. Thanks.
Yeah, anecdotally, we have definitely noticed, or I have when I'm in the area, that there are sometimes porta potties, and this will be just a better experience for everyone.
Lisa, I believe you have your hands up, right? The floor is yours.
Yes, thank you. Will, can you just explain how this toilet works? You said it's self-cleaning. What is being cleaned? Is it just the toilet that's being cleaned? Or is there other parts of that? Because it seems like it's a pretty large space.
Yeah, Lucy, maybe if you could actually look up a link to share. The best example would be from a HBO show, How To with John Wilson. But the unit has a full clean cycle where there is water and detergent being sprayed throughout the whole unit, not just the toilet. And then there is air that kind of tries to dry it out. But I encourage people to look up that process. You can look up automatic public toilet in YouTube, unless we're able to get a link. But in terms of like that cleaning cycle, it is with detergent, and everything gets sanitized.
Okay, I just have two other questions. Since this is self-cleaning, my thought is it's not going to get as much attention by, would it be the Parks Departments that is
So
responsible for monitoring this? How often will that take place now?
yeah, so one of the things that we really love, I'm also just a big bathroom advocate, but this unit, the APT, it's fully funded and maintained by the franchisee, JC Deco. Um, uh, Meaning at 8 a.m. when they open, they will restock things like toilet paper, the detergent in the back, soaps, and then at night they will also, troubleshoot anything that's up and again restock supplies and make sure everything is in order.
Okay, that's great. And last question, you mentioned that after 15 minutes, the door opens.
Yeah.
So is it open for a few seconds and then it closes again until someone else is ready to use it?
Excellent question. So actually the cleaning cycle is 90 seconds. So between uses, there is a 90-second lag time or pause during which the unit sanitizes.
Okay, great. I mean, I think it's great that we would have public toilets available, because sometimes it's very challenging to go into establishments and use them. The goal is to just make sure they remain clean.
Absolutely.
Yeah, if they do. Thank you.
You have your hand up before?
I put it down. Thank you.
All right. I don't see anybody else's hands up. So I guess there's no further questions. Will, thank you very much for coming and presenting.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Please feel free to, reach out to Diana, or if you do have my contact myself. Actually, I'll drop my email in this chat here.
Thank you.
And
Can you also provide the community board with the deck so we can post it along with this, the recording of this meeting? If
absolutely.
you or Diana would send it. Thanks. Hi, Diana.
Hello. Yeah, and I'll also add my contact info on the chat as well.
Awesome. Thank you everyone so much.
All right, take care, Will. All right, so our next part of this is going to be an update on the New York City Transit. Anthony's here.
And Anthony, is that you on the 347 number? I did receive an email that he was having trouble logging.
Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
You can hear. All right. Sorry. Yes. Good evening, everyone. Anthony Drummond from New York City Transit Government Community Relations. Thank you for having me on, and apologies that I'm not able to join video wise. As we speak, I'm here at the IDX scoping meeting, which is the second meeting occurring after last week's one at Brooklyn College. A colleague of mine had to do jury duty, so I got assigned here, so I had to call in. So I guess it's in a way perfect timing, just to provide everyone an update about the IBX and scoping. We are currently in environmental review, and basically for the committee, this is where the public can weigh in on the New York State environmental quality scoping document that's required for this project to further proceed and ultimately be constructed. So we're taking comments from the public, two in-persons, one that was last week and this week, and then we're going to have a couple of virtual ones on November 19th. One in the morning, between 10 a.m. and noon, and then there will be an evening one virtual as well on the same day from 6 to 8 p.m. And so we're really trying to get as many people, especially along the project corridor line, and in this case with the CB14, to really provide any and all comments relating to the project, so that can be submitted up until November 24th, which is the last day. Can submit in person or virtual or online. And this will be part of the complete environmental record for the project. And just another thing here to add, and let me just flip here. So just to provide you guys with some more like specifics of like the scoping. So this will, provide their categories that are listed under the scoping doc that people can comment on, and the document covers fully on like land use, community facilities, open space, transportation, visual, aesthetics, historic and cultural resources, noise, vibration, energy, safety, as well as just to name a few. And we have a slew of agencies that are involved, in addition to us, that will also be part of the overall scoping document for the environmental review, both on the city side, federal, as well as state. So that's pretty much the environmental scoping in a nutshell. And I guess from there, I guess I will pause, and if there's some technical questions you guys have, I'll be happy to take that. And interested enough, since you're at the scoping meeting, can possibly try to get some answers while I'm here. And again, I apologize given the timing. But if there's more, I can definitely share when I'm back in the office tomorrow. If there's some more like specifics that you guys want me to look into. All right, I will pause right there and take questions.
So thank you, Anthony, for the update. quick and to the point, right? So,
Yeah.
just a question for you that was raised
Mhm.
to me before this meeting. Apparently, there were a bunch of slides and presentations that were made and presented in Brooklyn College that were not submitted to the community board before this committee meeting. So I was wondering if you could
Mhm.
supplement that and send that to us.
Definitely not a problem. I will get that over to Sean and team that can submit and share with the committee, as well as the rest of the public. Yes, definitely.
All right, thank you very much. I see Steve Cohen's hand is raised. Steve, floor is yours.
Thanks, Benjamin. Yeah, so I guess I just have more of a general comment. Um, Not necessarily, maybe in fact, it's more for the committee than necessarily the speaker to take back. But obviously, I'm trying to be realistic. I'm really looking forward to the IBX. I think it has a lot of potential. I did attend the meeting at Brooklyn College, which was informative. There was some new information shared, and that was appreciated. And the update regarding the design process, I believe, taking a year was helpful to know. I guess my comment would be, I think this is a route that would be really vital, which is I think what everyone has been saying, and would definitely be something that people would take advantage of. And just because I don't even want to think about what the ultimate timeline will be. I'm sure there will be all sorts of things that come up in doing this. Just I think in working with the MTA, because I know the Brooklyn bus redesign is going to be in process at some point. I know we've talked about improving bike infrastructure to get west and east, but I think from our area, what I found, especially getting to North Brooklyn, can be challenging using public transportation right now. And a lot of like nightlife and other things have popped up in like Bushwick, Williamsburg, what have you. And it can, public transportation is not necessarily the best way to get there. I find myself driving for the most part. And similarly, I have, kids applying to schools in Bay Ridge, and it's another place that like public transportation is just not as convenient. And like Sunset Park to get to Industry City. So these are places that the IBX I think would be a wonderful for resolving. But I'm just thinking in terms of the interim time period before it exists, like what can be done, public transportation wise, bike infrastructure wise, to make this travel route or similar travel routes more doable. So that's all I have to say on that. Thank you.
All right.
So Anthony, I think that was a question. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think it was food for thought.
Yeah, it
Okay.
was
Yes.
more of a
I wasn't
comment.
necessarily looking for a response from the speaker. Thank you.
Mhm.
Gotcha. Sean, your hand is raised.
It is, and then Liz put their hand up after me. Also kind of, Anthony, more of a comment, and you've heard me say it before, but I just want to state it here where I have board members and we're recording this because it is something that that MTA should be accountable for, and that is a couple of things. Number one, this is going to be broadly beneficial for all the reasons Steve Cohen just mentioned. But the hyperlocal hosts of this project have some legitimate concerns about light and noise and vibrations and foot traffic on what had been quiet blocks. So I just want to make sure that those concerns are listened to thoughtfully, and that the environmental scoping takes those into account seriously. And I know you will, but people were already calling out, calling people NIMBY, and to people who are going to have a change in their quality of life. I just hope that their concerns are heard with respect and that they're processed all the way through. These are also people who've looked down on these tracks that look like words I can't say at work. They're just in hideous shape. And I know that it's not your property now, but it will be associated with you pretty much now and throughout the project. So to any extent that there can be either pressure or even resources provided to Atlantic Pacific so that the discarded toilets, illegal drop-offs, overgrowth of weeds and such can be attended to, I think that would really create some buy-in, the same way that keeping the stations that you have now in our district graffiti clear and clean and well maintained, I think also will help in the end, that people are going to have a lot of trust and more support for a project if you're taking care of the assets that are already in our district, and we struggle with that. So thanks for hearing that out.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much, Sean, and definitely duly noted. Definitely duly noted.
Liz, you're up.
Yeah, hi. Thank you again for checking in with us. This does sort of piggyback on both what Steve and Sean had just mentioned. I do think that, you know, one question, one really big open question for me around this process, and I'm not sure if I don't know that it exactly ties into environmental review, but it's something that's been on the minds of myself and neighbors who I've talked to about the project, is just making sure that we set this project up for success, both through making sure that if there's enhanced pedestrian spaces we need around the IBX and so forth, that and safety improvements, that work gets coordinated with DOT. But also just, I'm curious if what work is going on to coordinate with DOT more broadly on getting better, pedestrian access, bike connections and other things to this area. If there's any coordination with the MTA bus redesign to help facilitate, longer term work that would make the routes make a lot of sense with the IBX, because as someone who lives not right by it, but would love to be able to use it, I'm just thinking of all of the different connections that I would make there or that my neighbors would make there. And they're not, the queue goes there, which will be great, but not everyone is kind of right near there. And there's just other connections that people might want to make on foot or by bus or by bike. So I was just wondering if there's any more insight into that process or where that will pop up in the process later.
Yes, great question, and thank you for that. So with the Brooklyn bus redesign, that's going to be happening soon, so stay tuned for that. But we are coordinating with DOT on that. They're going to be making, as this project, IBX moves forward, and then with the redesign as well, moving forward, there will be definitely a lot of coordination there. And one of the big things in that as part of the project is to make sure that, especially along the route, that there is hyperconnectivity to the future proposed stations along the route. And then in addition, to make sure there's great accessibility transfers and so forth to other lines along the subway route that are going to be connecting with the project. So that work is still ongoing. I think as this process moves forward, on our coordination there with the agencies as this moves forward. So we're actively working with them.
All right, Lisa, you got your hand up. It's all yours.
Yes, thank you once again.
Okay.
Hi, Anthony.
Hi.
This is something that may have been covered already, but once people get used to utilizing this line, once it's up and running, they're going to rely on this. When this line goes out due to weather conditions, extreme weather conditions that we've been experiencing lately, like flooding, maybe trees down, etc., is there an alternative? I know this light rail is making connections to a lot of different lines, but running along that line, is there going to be an alternative, like a bus that runs along that line to get people from A to B?
Are you acting like a bus or a bus rapid along the corridor with the IBX?
Along the corridor, or at least to certain parts, to have them connect to other trains when that line goes down.
Right. Well, Well, there won't be in this proposal like a bus line running along that corridor. It'll be strictly rail for that. Um, but in terms of bus line connections, as mentioned before, they will have connections. The stations that the proposed station and what we're doing in coordination with DOT for this project is making sure, especially with the bus redesign coming down the way as well, that there will be like hyperconnectivity at these stations, whether it be bus or rail. And that's still being worked out fully from the design aspect from both the bus redesign and from the coordination there for the design of the route with the project.
Okay, I just want to make sure that that was thought about because people will be left stranded if we didn't have alternative measures. Thank you.
No problem. You're welcome.
So just doing one last check. It doesn't look like there's anybody else with their hands raised. So, Anthony, thank you
Yep.
very much for coming by, giving us the quick update, and
Yep.
look forward to hearing a lot more from you very soon from the IBX and bus redesign and everything else that comes up.
Yes, you guys definitely will. And thank you guys very much and appreciate for the invite. And again, apologies for not being able to see visually for you guys, but I'll definitely be in touch. Sean always keeps me on my toes with anything transportation related. So I will, yeah, you guys will be hearing from me soon.
Thanks, Anthony. Thanks for making it work.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. Have a good night, everyone.
Good night. So for the next part, which is, I'm going to leave to Musa.
Thanks, Benjamin. Good evening, everyone. So we have 2 items left on the agenda. We're going to hear from a representative from Stop the Chop, New York, New Jersey. It's going to be a presentation on the introduction to a proposal to ban non-essential helicopter flights over the New York City metropolitan area. I believe I saw a representative attending. I'm not sure who actually is going to be presenting. Is it Andy or someone else?
Hi, there's 2 of us. I'm Kenneth. My name's Kenneth Lay, and we also have Andy Rosenthal is here as well.
Okay. Welcome, Kenneth.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity to be here. Yeah, we have a presentation to show. I'm gonna try to show it. I've never done this before in WebEx, so it'll take me a second. Let me see. Okay. I will need to come right back if that's okay. So I will be back in like 5 seconds.
No problem.
Doing that, I can give a little bit of an introduction to the committee about Stop the Chop, who we are and what we're up to. And Stop the Chop was a group of anti-helicopter activists formed in 2014. They were pretty successful, but not completely successful. They got a bill introduced in City Council, which was what they were trying to do. In 2015, it almost passed, and just before a vote, Bill de Blasio went in a back room and worked out what we call the compromise agreement, which went into effect in 2016, which cut the volume of tourist flights in half. And at that point, Stop the Chop went dormant for a few years, and a new crew, myself included, came in and reinvigorated it and have been working very actively for the last 5 years, finally getting some traction on a number of things. All right, Kenneth, you ready?
Yes. Thanks, Andy.
Okay. So that's what we are. We are working, just as a background, at the city level, the state level, the federal level. We're working in New Jersey. I'll be at testimony in Trenton on Monday. So lots is going on and lots of success this past year, although we're still not home.
Yep. Okay. Can you all see my screen? The presentation?
Yes.
Awesome. All right. Yeah, so sounds like Andy was giving a little overview of Stop the Chop, which is great. My name's Kenneth Lay. I also live in Brooklyn. I live in Carroll Gardens, and joined Stop the Chop 3 or 4 years ago on the board, because I think as you must be down there in Flatbush and around there, just inundated with the helicopter noise, the low-flying helicopters passing over all the time. So we have the exact same situation here, and it's driving me insane. So ended up joining Stop the Chop. So we wanted to just present a bit on what our mission is and what exactly we're trying to do, and give you some updates on the kinds of legislation we're working towards, and go from there. So yeah, I'll just go through this presentation fairly quickly, and then we were hoping to just take questions. Yeah, so Stop the Chop, I think Andy was telling you we're all volunteer, nonprofit. It sounds like he gave you some overview. Here's a whole bunch of people with Lincoln Wrestler and Gil Brewer and others in front of City Hall. Got a broad coalition, including a good number of assembly senators from New York and New Jersey, and all these organizations here as well that we've worked with. So what we're really trying to do as an organization is ideally ban non-essential helicopters over our region. And so a non-essential helicopter is a sightseeing, tourist, commuter, charter helicopter, or non-professional photography. Down there where you guys are, it's almost entirely charter, I would say. It's Blade and commuter. And so they're taking people back and forth from the airport largely, and also the Hamptons. But up over the bay, over the harbor, and over in New Jersey, there's that, and there's also a lot of tourist flights. What we are not trying to ban or eliminate or reduce is essential helicopters, which are the police, emergency, medevac, government, etc. So, and the news. So the goal really is these just basically pointless flights that are just inundating our lives. We kind of have 4 broad reasons we want them eliminated: for safety, public health, the environment, and also they're actually quite harmful to the city's economy, to our regional economy, which I'll get into a little bit. Safety, frankly, they're really not safe. They're much less safe than airplanes. I think many of you, if not all of you, may have heard about this April 2025 crash, just this past April, where a whole Spanish family was killed. That's just the latest example. There have been a long series of terrible crashes in New York. We've also met with the FAA, and I mean, the flights that go under, I think it's 30 minutes, are actually under a different set of regulations and are not required to receive inspections as frequently and things like that. So and some of them are decades old, these helicopters, they're flying back and forth over the city. So it's really this isn't like a safe situation. So that's definitely a primary reason that we're working towards this. Public health, obviously the noise, I'm sure you've all experienced the noise. It's just outrageous. But there's also the stress it causes. I know I get woken up all the time. It definitely raises my blood pressure. I feel like a lot of people experience that when they're hearing this kind of droning sound from the helicopters. So there's all sorts of studies and things have been done showing that noise pollution leads to all of these poor health outcomes. But the helicopters in particular are just so, you kind of can't get away from it, is what I've experienced. So public health. Yeah, here's some more information here. Lead emissions and so forth. Here's a nice little quote. Pollution-wise, obviously, they produce a huge amount of pollution. I think we estimate that it's something like 40 cars. So when someone's taking one of these flights to JFK, they're producing a dramatically larger, carbon footprint just for this small little trip over to the airport and back. Transportation is already the largest source of greenhouse gases in the U.S., And, this is just hugely worsening it. And as it notes here, a lot of these have these gas turbine engines, so they're not even that fuel efficient. We also we know that they sit on the helipads in Manhattan and they just idle. And they're just spewing out, huge amounts of fumes and pollution. So some people can get to the airport more quickly. So a lot of environmental impact from all this. And then finally for the economy, there's obviously the impact of crashes. The noise pollution also does impact real estate values. Obviously, if you've ever been to a park where this was happening, it kind of reduces the enjoyment in the park. It also, like festivals and things that can be happening, negatively impacted by the noise and just the presence of the helicopter. Also in New York City in particular, us taxpayers of New York City are actually subsidizing a lot of this industry in paying for maintenance of the heliports and things, which are entirely publicly owned. All three of the heliports in Manhattan that these flights are going to and from are public heliports. And so we're paying for the maintenance and all this stuff of all this, and then we're not really seeing any profit out of it. And I think, Andy, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we worked out it's about $1 million a year in total revenue for the city or something, and the most of it goes to. Or you're muted if you're speaking.
Sorry. Each of the heliports generates probably about $2 million a year, so total $6 million amongst the three heliports. But the expenses dwarf that many fold. So just the direct expenses, not even the externalities, which Kenneth has talked about here in terms of health and quality of life.
Yeah. So it's costing us a lot of real money and also these other impacts. So we wanted to just cover a bit of the legislation that we've been working on in the last few years. We've actually had some pretty big things happen lately. So we've got a lot of momentum going. On June 3rd of this year, we had Manhattan Community Board 7 passed a resolution calling on all levels of government to ban or reduce these flights. As I'll explain a little bit as we go through these slides, there are different ways that the different levels of government can regulate this. But obviously the best solution would be the federal government stepping in and just basically outright banning them from the airspace, because ultimately it is the airspace is a federal issue. So New York State and New York City are somewhat limited in what they can do, especially once the helicopters left the ground. But this was a big, I believe this was our first community board resolution.
Community Board 4 in Manhattan also has passed a number of resolutions, so they're both of them. I don't know which was first, but yeah, we're looking for something similar, hopefully from your community board.
Yeah, we're trying to just, ramp up support throughout the city basically, as we've described, trying to get all of this stopped. So we had this happen. This was a huge milestone for us. In April of this year, we had the city council actually passed a bill that is designed to ban helicopters that are of the loudest noise levels from city-owned heliports, which this can get a little confusing, but there's 3 heliports in Manhattan right now. There's 2 on the East River and there's 1 on the Hudson River. The 2 on the East River at Wall Street and at 34th Street are owned and run by the city. But the one on the west side is essentially jointly owned and run by the city and the state, and it's inside Hudson River Park. One of the primary goals that Stop the Chop has been trying to achieve is to just get the city to just close its heliports. They definitely could do that because they own it. That would be great. That would stop all the flights from there. Unfortunately, a lot of the Blade flights that are coming over your area and my area over Brooklyn are coming from the West 30th heliport. And so that would also require the state to get involved. But if that heliport were closed, that would actually have an enormous impact in reducing the flights over Brooklyn. So, but this was a big milestone, the passage of this bill. And so we're hoping that come 2029, at least, these loudest helicopters will be banned from those 2 heliports. There were always a series of resolutions that were pretty great. So that was a big moment for Stop the Chop. It had been quite a while since there had been any legislation actually passed in this regard.
This is actually the first legislation that we're aware of in the country that actually, directly tries to reduce or eliminate non-essential helicopters. So it is a landmark law. It's unfortunately not going to go into effect till 2029. And right now, the industry, just a month or two ago, has sued the city to try and block its implementation. So we will see. But we were thrilled after 10 years of trying to get a city council bill. We finally got one. On the city efforts, and then we have a little snippet of a Democratic mayoral debate from June where we have, I guess, Mayor-elect Mandami saying he believes that non-essential helicopters should be banned. So there could be a sea change in the city very shortly in the new year. That's possible. The mayor does have the right to close those two heliports. Mayor Giuliani did exercise that right. There used to be a third East River heliport under the 59th Street Bridge at East 60th Street. For any of you as old as me, that was closed in the late 90s. We're hoping that Mayor-elect follows through with what he promised in the campaign, but it's not the complete solution. We still have lots of traffic coming from West 30th Street. We still have traffic coming from New Jersey, although I don't think the Jersey traffic is affecting your district as much as other people.
Yeah. So I'll now quickly go through the other. This is some new federal legislation. This is the real, I mean, this would solve the problem. This bill in particular that would essentially prohibit helicopter flights within a 20-mile radius of the Statue of Liberty. That would be it. That would solve the problem for all of us. This bill actually did get the support of a good number of the area representatives. You see Nadler, Maliotakis, Menendez. So it's bipartisan support now. Obviously, we're going to keep working to push on this bill, but getting anything through Congress is very difficult. So, this is kind of the biggest solution of all. And it's exciting to see that this has come about this year and that there is this bipartisan support.
Yeah, this is the first time in history, really. I think that we've had many bills introduced at the federal level that were purely by the Democratic representatives in New York City. This is the first bipartisan bill that we've had. So we're not super optimistic, but it probably has a better chance than the non-bipartisan bills. We're working at every level because there are things that can be done below the federal level, and and those seem more likely, like the bill we got through city council, than this bill, which just seems to not be getting enough traction in Washington.
Yeah. And so to that point, I think we're going to skip this slide. These are supposed to be skipped. Okay, here. At the state level, finally, there has been some activity here as well. This bill was recently passed that is going to require Hudson River Park to move the heliport out of the park and onto a barge. It's not necessarily going to fix the problem, but it does put up this obstacle. And then I think, and I've been a little confused about how this will go down, but it sounds like there might be lawsuits around this after and things, and it's possible that this could help. It's also true, though, that if Mamdani and Hochul were to get together and just say it's over, we're closing it in Hudson River Park, that would be an ideal solution, and that would solve the problem down in Brooklyn, effectively, at least for these blade flights. But the other legislation that's been interesting is this idea to put a noise tax on these flights that are taking off or landing from these New York heliports. And so they propose different amounts, but it would be a per seat tax, just trying to disincentivize people from using these flights, because currently I think a blade flight from the west side to JFK is about $200 each way, not including baggage or anything, but you know, if it became 250, 300, hopefully some people would decide to skip it. So that's something we've worked on for a number of years at the state level. Haven't yet gotten anything like that passed, but that's been a topic of discussion at the state level. Let's see. All right, I think that's about it. That's kind of
Just get one or two other points that, you know, this district, CB14, is not in the epicenter of the problem. So unless you're going up towards Prospect Park or Brooklyn Botanic Gardens or even, you know, Governor's Island or Brooklyn Bridge Park, you're not going to get the full brunt of what's going on. And a lot of what you are getting, is my guess, is unlike the city as a whole, where we estimate that about 5% of the traffic is essential. So our goal is to ban non-essentials, which is roughly 95%. I think in your district, you're close enough to Floyd Bennett Field, which is the NYPD base. You probably are getting quite a few, and more than the 5% that the city gets, of NYPD helicopters. And we can show you, if those of you that want, how to tell the difference. There are 2 free apps, which both will, in New York, police identify themselves on the app. So if you pull up the app, you look and see a helicopter, put your finger on it, it'll give you the tail number. And if it ends in PD, that's the police. So we are, unfortunately, probably for your district, not working on banning police. We do think that some of their behavior is suboptimal. They fly too low and at weird hours all day and night. You know, I occasionally call them, and I encourage you to do the same if you think people are flying disrespectfully, because I just, you know, they just go out and patrol randomly at 1 a.m. at very low altitudes, which of course wakes people up all across the city. So that's a separate problem, and I encourage people in this district to focus on that a little bit. But right now, we're hoping to reduce traffic by 95%. That's our goal.
One other thing I can add is that if it's helicopters that are flying, I do think your district is getting more and more impacted by Blade, because one of the routes that Blade is using is over Flatbush Avenue, and they're just shooting down Flatbush Avenue. And so I've heard 7 or 8 helicopters go over my apartment while I was giving this presentation. So you may have heard them down there. I'm not sure if they were going that way, but it is an increasing problem for your area as well. And Floyd Bennett Field is involved, but I have seen that they often go they kind of go however. If you're seeing them going up and down Flatbush, that's going to be the Blade flights. So
You're going to be getting the some of the JFK traffic. Some of it cuts to the north of you, but some of it sort of goes the long route. I'll call it over Flatbush Avenue, as Ken has said, and then out to JFK. And a lot of the Hamptons traffic comes from, you know, the Hamptons along the beach fronts of Long Island, and then cuts in right over your district. So you're definitely probably seeing more on Fridays and Sundays when the Hampton routes are active. But yeah, let's take some questions.
Well, thank you very much for both of you for presenting to us. I'm going to open it up to questions, so please raise your hand and I will call upon you. Start with Steve Cohen.
Thanks for the presentation. I guess I just wanted to echo Ken's final point, because in our neighborhood, South Midwood, it seems like the folks who are closest to Flatbush Avenue are the ones that you know, are bothered the most by the noise. A lot of times it's, you know, low flying helicopters that, you know, people are saying they're not flying at the minimum required altitude, and that's a problem. I know that's been a problem in the past. I don't know, you know, if anything has been done to rectify that, but I know that was a big topic of conversation locally. I guess, you know, one question I have for you is, thought I had seen something that said Blade was at least, you know, my understanding was Blade was seriously looking into adopting like an electric helicopter fleet within the, you know, relatively foreseeable future. I'm not sure exactly what that timeline was, but if that's true, that would seem like it would address at least the pollution and presumably the noise points, at least to some degree. So I'm just wondering if you have any information on that regarding Blade's timetable regarding adopting electric helicopters. Thanks.
Let me
Yeah,
address the first point, though. There is no minimum altitude.
yeah,
So that's a fallacy. The FAA has minimum altitudes for airplanes, but not for helicopters. So they've exempted helicopters from almost all regulations. No minimum altitude. So if they're 200 or 300 feet, which is ridiculous, that's not illegal.
yeah.
And
I'll emphasize once more, the regulation around this is really poor. So they can basically do whatever they want. So
the
yeah, when
second
someone
thing
comes and says like
is,
that's too low, it's like,
yeah, Steve, the second question is electrics. And the city council bill was designed, the bill that's now being litigated, and the city council bill was designed to accommodate electrics. And that's a big reason why the teeth don't kick in until 2029, because as of today, there are 0 electrics that are certified in the United States, 0. That doesn't mean it's not going to happen. We keep hearing it's 6 months away, 12 months away for the last 3 or 4 years. I do think it will happen, but even if it happened tonight, there are not an infinite number of these things. These are very tiny companies that will have to gear up to produce them once they are certified. It's going to take many, many years. If you start using the apps to track these, they also give you information on the craft. The average helicopter, and this is a guesstimate, so don't take this as gospel, but I would say is probably 20 years old over New York. So they're multi-million-dollar investments. They're not going away anytime soon unless they're forced to. So even if we have um, big drones, essentially the eVTOLs tomorrow, there's going to be a lot of things in the sky. NYPD is not replacing their fleet, et cetera, et cetera. It's going to take decades for the industry to transition unless we force them. And that's the goal of things like Intro 26 that we had passed, was to force them. So yes, there's hope on the horizon, but we don't know when that's happening. We're not waiting for it because we've been hearing for too long it's coming in 6 months.
Thank you. Next, I'm going to call on Liz.
Hi, I had a follow-up question about electric helicopters. I think, as we've seen, electric cars do have some forms of less pollution in terms of, obviously there's not gas being burned to make the engine, but my understanding is there's still a significant amount of pollution from tires and so forth, and also, of course, the carbon footprint in general of creating new vehicles. And I was curious if there's more information about that for electric helicopters. I'm just trying to reason through this because, a lot of this, these flights are very, very expensive. They're not reaching the vast majority of New Yorkers. We don't have a lot of, I'm trying to think of this in terms of equity and other and how this is affecting everyone, as well as what negative externalities are coming off of it. But do we know if there's other how much the emissions are reduced through a potential electric helicopter, or there's still other sources? I mean, obviously they don't have tires like cars do, so that's part of why I'm not an expert here. But I just, that just curious if that analogy, if there's things like that, or if it kind of will substantially reduce noise and emissions when they were to potentially all switch over.
Yeah, I mean, they're not silent, but they are, quantums quieter. 10 decibels is on 100% change the way the decibel scale is logarithmic. So there's no question they're quieter. There's no question that, as I bike by West 30th Street and I go by the heliport, or if you're standing down near Pier 6 and by the Wall Street heliport, you'll be gagged depending on which way the winds blow. That will not happen with electrics, right? There will be pollution created to generate electricity, as there are with cars, right? So there are still power plants that are burning all sorts of bad things to make energy, because we're not carbon free. So while they don't have tailpipes, even electric eVTOLs or electric cars are not carbon free. But other than that, there's no real tire, and I'm not aware of any particles being scattered or anything like that. So I do think it will be a big improvement. My fear is, I don't want to wait 20 years. I'm an old man. I don't want to wait 20 years to see it really develop and kick in. We're trying to accelerate it. The other thing is, this is unnecessary. Let them come back to the table when they have something that's good and we all can agree on and approve. But what they've done is they've grown this thing that's just terrorizing neighborhoods all over the area. It's not just New York, it's New Jersey too. People are literally moving out of their homes, and we know many of them because of the helicopter noise.
Thank you. I think Steve has his hand up. I'm just gonna make a statement, ask my question, and then I'll go to Steve. In general, I support the idea behind the campaign. I think it's a worthwhile one. At least it's one that I experienced myself, especially during the summers, I think, because it's the nature of where our neighborhood is located. There are times during the day when I'm sitting outside reading, and it's just constant helicopters. When I've had people over, and we have to like stop all conversation until the helicopters have gone by. It's quite disruptive. So I definitely experience it in the neighborhood. I also think, I don't know if we put you in touch, but there's a local campaign. I don't know how active they are. They maybe came to us last year, focused on helicopter noise in our neighborhood, and it might be useful for you guys to like link up. Just some like local residents that had taken issue with it. So it might be good to connect you guys. My question is a couple things. So the goal is, I think it sounds like the goal that you guys want to do is to ban non-essential travel. It doesn't, I want to connect to a few things we discussed. It doesn't, for example, include creating a minimum flight level or whatever to deal with the noise, which might be fine. I'm just, and when you say that you want to ban on all non-essential travel, there's a pretty big percent of, for example, Blade's business, which is like organ transplant. I assume all that stuff is still going to be able to fly through.
Yeah, we have nothing. Yeah, and just be careful how Blade talks, because Blade didn't, when they started, they were just a commuter operation for the sky. They then purchased, when they went public, they had a lot of cash. They went and purchased the largest organ and organ transplant company. So nationwide, the organ transplant makes up a very big portion of Blade's revenues. In New York City, that is not the case, because New York City is one of the few places where they're doing commuters. So be careful. Most of Blade's traffic over New York City, almost all of it, is non-essential.
Okay, good to know. And then my last question, I'll hand it over to Steve, is it wasn't clear to me necessarily what I think I understand what you're pushing for on the council level and the federal level. I wasn't sure exactly on the state. I know, can you just remind me like what, I think you had a slide on the state ask?
We have two things at the state that we've been working on historically. One was some way to ban them, right? And so the state does have authority over the city in so many respects. And so we did have a bill that was introduced, but then was modified a couple years ago, which would have amended the city charter to close the two East River heliports. And it also would have, excuse me?
That's your request to the state government.
And it also, we have asked them to also amend the Hudson River Park Act, which created the park. You know, 30 years ago, that was a wasteland. We have this wonderful park that the taxpayers have spent billions on, which is being desecrated by the heliport right in the middle of it. When the park was created in the late 90s, the heliport was told you must leave. They didn't leave. There was a lawsuit, and then they got the state legislature to amend the original act to allow them to stay. So right now they're not violating the current act, but we have had legislation to amend the act back to the original language, more or less, saying, please leave, at least for non-essential purposes. And that's going to take either a state legislature act, or the mayor and the governor could get their representatives who control the Hudson River Park to cancel the lease tomorrow. I mean, it's operating under a 30-day rolling lease.
Oh.
It could be gone by New Year's
Right.
if the governor and the mayor agree.
Which I think is also kind of the case for the city ones too. They could effectively just terminate these agreements they have with the tourist.
Yeah, so we believe that the mayor has authority, like Giuliani exercised, to close them. And so it's going to be interesting, twofold. One is be interesting to see if Mayor-elect Mondani does what he said he would do, which would be amazing. That still leaves most of the traffic over your district, which emanates from West 30th Street. The good news there is one of our founders sued the heliport, won, and there's a numerical cap, a hard cap of 16,250. They're running under the cap according to their self-reported numbers, but they cannot double or triple the volume at West 30th Street, even on barges or whatever. They're going to have to figure out some other thing.
Yeah. Although if Mamdani doesn't act, they have increasingly been using the city heliports to fly Blade flights over Brooklyn. This was even a year ago, this wasn't really happening, and now we're seeing more and more and more traffic that Blade is doing out of those heliports. So it's becoming an increasing problem for us in Brooklyn, and that's why it's important that the city also take action.
Okay, great. Thank you guys very much. I'm going to call on Steve.
Thanks, Musa. Just to piggyback on something Musa said, with regard to the group that spoke last year, I believe Musa is referring to the South Midwood Residents Association, which is the same group I was referring to earlier in my neighborhood, where folks close to Flatbush Avenue have commented on the noise, and it's been a topic on the local listserv and certainly at resident association meetings. The question I wanted to ask was in terms of if you were going to talk about, positives from these helicopters, one that would come to mind would be taking traffic off the roads, because I'm sure a lot of people who are doing this is to avoid traffic along the belt, Southern States, Sunrise Highway, what have you, getting to JFK or the Hamptons. So have there been any studies? I'm guessing the numbers aren't big, but I'm just curious, like, what are we talking about in terms of the amount of vehicles that would otherwise be doing these routes to the airport in the Hamptons that are not because people are on these helicopters? Thank you.
It's a drop in the ocean. Okay, so it's not going to impact the amount of traffic on the belt. Unfortunately, it just doesn't. Yeah, it's numerically you're looking at over New York City. There's 80,000 flights. The vast majority of those are tourist flights. So the number of commuter flights is in the tens of thousands. Even if they each represented 2 taxi cabs, right? It let people. It's just it's an hour's worth of traffic over a year. I mean, it's just zero.
Thanks.
All right. I am just looking to see if there's anyone else who had any questions. Speak now or forever hold your peace. All right. Well, I do want to thank both of you guys, Kenneth and Andy, for coming to present to us. I think it's been very educational for folks. I've certainly learned a lot from the presentation. I know that we had reached out to you about next steps if you were seeking approval or support from the community board. I think our district office had been in touch with you on like the best way to go forward with that, and we're happy to be in touch and present anything you have or that you're interested in putting together for the board's consideration. Okay.
Yeah,
Great.
we would love a resolution along the lines of the Manhattan CB7, Manhattan CB4 resolutions. We ask you to, when you see your electeds, just, I think most of your electeds have been supportive. So I don't think that, just thank them for their support in getting the bill that we did get passed through City Council. The biggest stumbling block for the next bill would be the New York State Assembly. So I think your assembly people are also on board, but we haven't been able to get it through. We've gotten it past the Senate twice. The Assembly has not had a vote on it, so we need our Assembly people in Albany to work harder. I also see a question in the chat, which I'd like to try and answer. Do these heli businesses receive any tax breaks? I'm not an expert on that. I will say that they're hugely subsidized by the city, as Kenneth mentioned early on. There is a New York resiliency operation going on, which has renovated, if that's the right word, reconstructed East River Park with billions and billions of dollars to raise it up 10 feet to prevent another Hurricane Sandy from inundating southern Manhattan. The next phase of that, I think, is going to run from like the Brooklyn Bridge down to the Battery Park, which is where Pier 6, the busiest heliport in the world, is located. In the proposal that we've seen, this is all just very preliminary drafts, there is a new heliport, which is budgeted for $150 million of taxpayer money. That's just one of the three. So, you know, this is just insanity that the city council has definitely said, our representatives and our representatives in all levels have said, we don't want this. And yet somehow the EDC sticks in $150 million taxpayer paid for heliport. So, you know, yeah, there are subsidies. There's probably many subsidies too with accelerated depreciation on the helicopters, blah, blah, blah. I'm not an expert on that. So I just can say the stuff I know about, we are subsidizing this thing that, as Musa said, you know, you can't even have a conversation in your house. I mean, how many millions of times a year is that happening across the city?
All right, thank you very much. Andy, Kenneth, we'll let you go.
Much.
Thank you very much for joining.
Thank
For
you.
everyone else, I'm just, I try to make it a habit, as I've mentioned before, of just checking in, see if there's, the last item on our agenda is other business. And so if anyone has other business, we can just briefly address and then we'll wrap up. Hold on, let me look at the list. Liz.
Hi, thanks. I wanted to check in on the bike lane expansion within CB14 that DOT had said they were going to put in this year. It's now November 6th, which is kind of very close to the end of construction season. So I was wondering if we heard any updates on this as it, you know, had been promised for this year and that year the clock is ticking.
Yeah. The update on this project is, if I remember, Sean can keep me honest with some of the details here, but I believe after they presented to the community board, they gave the presentation, if I remember correctly, about the Cortellu. This is about the protected bike lane on Cortellu and Dorchester, right?
As well as part of the painted bike lanes that they had started putting in this year throughout the district.
Oh, good point. Well, let me just give you the update on the protected bike lane first. After the presentation, I think it overwhelmingly got positive support, at least at the meeting. And then I think the DOT said that they were going to start rolling it out in the fall of this year. At some point after the meeting, I think in like late September, or maybe early October, we had found out, I think, that the DOT had not run the plan by the firehouse on Cortellu or on Cortellu Road. And so I guess the firehouse had concerns about the plan. Just right off the top of my head, I think their concerns were around the width of the road with the protected bike lane, the hardening of some of the intersections, and I think they made arguments like their folks, their firefighters, or their staff needed places to park, and this would reduce parking on the street. Roughly speaking, I think those are the general arguments. So I think we sent that over to DOT. I believe DOT ended up having a meeting with the firehouse to talk about those concerns. Sean, I forget if we heard back on the results of that meeting, but fast forward sometime after that firehouse meeting, we got notice from the DOT that they would be putting the Cortellu Dorchester project on pause for 2025 and putting it on the spring 2026 schedule. I think they cited staffing constraints, but Sean can correct me if I'm wrong. That's a timeline as I remember it. Sean, did I get that right?
Yeah, I mean, just the last communication was due to contractor capacity constraints. The roadway repaving and new markings were now scheduled for spring, summer 2026.
And I remember for the other painted project, I think they put those on pause, maybe in the lower part of the district, pending additional community engagement. Have we heard back on, like, are they doing
Any
anything?
efforts to do that? No.
Oh, okay. Sure, that's the latest.
Yeah, disappointing to hear, of course, as people, you know, lots of support in the neighborhood and hoping that there aren't any crashes that are either severe injuries or fatalities in the meantime, because we know that when we delay safety projects, it does make our streets less safe. Yeah, it's just really especially on my mind, in part because I had a truly harrowing ride back from the community board general meeting, alongside another board member who's not here tonight, where it was just it seemed, there's not a lot of bike lanes in that the southern portion of the district at all, but it just would note that drivers have been getting a lot more aggressive. I think it was like the most aggressive um general, like unsolicited death threats just for being on the street from multiple people, in ways that I expect to have once every other month from one driver somewhere in the city, and just really, really dangerous close passes. So just, it's really on my mind to make sure that these streets are safer for everyone in every mode, especially folks who are less experienced than myself and my fellow board member who we've been biking for quite some time now. But hope we get these street safety projects in very soon next year.
Thanks, Liz. Sorry you had to go through that. It sounds terrible. I also think maybe, I don't know if we should coincide a follow-up with the DOT if they plan on doing the, one other thing I should know, I think the firehouse was also argued not to, I think they didn't want it happening on Cortelyou, but I think they were arguing for a two-way on Dorchester that has its own complications, but like they were arguing essentially for a shift in the plan. But either way, it looks like it got shelved temporarily for the contractor complaints. I wonder if we line up the timing with a follow-up to DOT early next year to say, hey, what's the plan on the community engagement for the paint-only lanes or whatever? Assuming you're rolling this out or you're doing whatever you're doing with the protected bike lane. It might be an opportune time to push. We could do it this year, but I'm not sure if I'll get caught up. I think they only do projects through the end of November or something like that because of weather. Okay. If I forget, Liz or anyone else, please bug us, keep us accountable. Jeffrey.
Yes, hi. Sorry, my camera isn't working right now. On that subject, I feel I remember I asked, and I think some other people asked DOT, hey, we've heard this plan get pushed back a couple of times. You came to us with approximately the same plan last year. Do you think you have the resource to do it now? And they're saying, and they promised us basically yes, and now they're saying they've got contractor capacity constraints. I independent of the actual plan here, I'm worried that there's some unpredictability or something is going wrong when we have agencies that are promising work that they don't have the ability to do. And I wonder if there's something the community board can do to push on that. Is just an issue of the city just delivering the services that it's supposed to be able to provide.
That's pretty much my job and the thing that I do all day, every day with all agencies. Yes. Contractor issues under this administration have been plentiful across the board. I don't know if it's a capacity and breakdown at MOCs or different contracting procedures, but it's a citywide problem. Homeless shelters, bike lanes, forestry, tree pruning contracts. I've been unsuccessful since COVID. I think since COVID, we haven't had one successful sidewalk tree root job completed in the entire district. So it's frustrating for this project, and it's frustrating generally speaking, and maybe we'll turn a different corner in the near future.
Yeah, it sounds like maybe the new year ends up being, I'm open to sooner, obviously, but maybe the new year it presents an opportunity. I guess there'll be different administration too, but the new year will be an opportunity both to follow up on like any changes as a result of the firehouse meeting and just like what's the engagement plan for the paint, and if there's going to be the same direction, a different direction, tweaks or whatnot.
And I've asked for more detail on what that means, contractor capacity, blah, blah, blah. I'll, keep the co-chairs posted on what response, if any, I get on that, because the timing felt a little uncomfortable to get that information so soon after the FDNY meeting.
Thank you. I appreciate it, both of you.
All right. Any other business folks want to ask about or topic they want to cover before we close out? Liz?
This will be quick. I just wanted to get it kind of officially in the record. I know that the office has been doing this, going back and forth with DOT about trying to get the city bike dock by the parade grounds into a better location, hopefully maintaining that daylighting as well, but just so that people don't have to back up into the truck route. And, just wanted to raise it here in case anyone hears about that or also wants to write in. I think a lot of people I've heard about this independently from the office as well, that it is really tough to back out the bikes onto Caton, particularly at the Argyle Road stop, because it is on the near side of the intersection of the same side as trucks when they're stopped at the lights. There's never kind of like a break where you can get out. So yeah, just wanted to flag that. I know that Sean and the office have been really diligent trying to push for this, but just wanted to kind of make sure the board was just aware that this is something that people are working on because it's a good and worthy effort.
Okay, cool. Thank you, Liz. All right, with that, I think we have covered all the subjects we need to cover. Thank you everybody for joining. Thank you, Sean and team, for doing all the work as usual. Thanks again to all our presenters. Have a good night.